Stress and anxiety have been studied extensively with respect to video games and their effect. However, most studies tend to contradict each other, if not themselves. General consensus is that they can raise short-term temporary levels. Our study focuses on the idea of college students using games as an escape in order to cope with issues such as depression, anxiety, or stress. So, we conducted our own research compiled of data collected from secondary research and our own research from surveys and interviews with Virginia Tech students. Here is an overview of the participants we surveyed. There were 67 participants, of those 51 male and 16 female. Despite shooting games being the most popular genre of games worldwide, only about 16% of respondents indicated that that was their favorite type of game. A quarter of the respondents indicated that they never play. 14 responded that they play a few times per week, while only 7 responded that they play every day. We then filtered the data to see the surveys where the participants struggled with anxiety. There were 36 participants that claimed to have anxiety. We found that 72% of participants that struggled with anxiety believe playing video games helps with symptoms. The majority of participants play for fun, which was also the most common answer from all participants. We then filtered the data to see the surveys where the participants struggled with depression, to see how their responses compared as a whole, and to those with anxiety. There were 22 respondents that claimed to struggle with depression. It is important to note that most of the participants that have depression also mark that they have anxiety. Interestingly, we found that the data was equally split for whether playing video games helps with symptoms of depression or doesn't. Similarly to participants with anxiety, their favorite type of game was role-playing, at 45%, and the main reason they play is for fun.
I'd say there's a lot of stress that it helps relieve. It just lets you kind of let go for a little while. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to be the guy who has a paper due next week, which you should probably work on anyway, but you could be anybody, do anything, and just let go.
Yeah, yeah, they do reduce stress. Once I'm done playing, I guess, like, the stress can come back, but while I'm playing the video games, it's like, I'm just kind of relaxed and just focused on that, which isn't real, so it doesn't create real stress for me, so.
Yeah, reduce stress, especially out of boredom. It's something to do other than go outside half the time. I'm usually outside, but when I don't feel like doing anything, I just kind of sit there, run around or play a few football games here and there and call it a day.
I don't know if it really helped me deal with it. I mean, other than maybe just getting that stuff out there. I think, but I think it's, especially with stress and stuff like that, I think it's a lot easier to be able to just talk about that stuff like to real life people.
It's almost like reading a book, getting yourself immersed in a world that's not quite your own. You get to almost feel like you could be somebody else when you want to, or you get to do things that you just couldn't normally do.
Well, there's like stress from school for one. So like once I'm done with all that, it's cool to be able to just do something that's just fun and it doesn't really matter. And then with the collegiate times, there's a ton of stuff. Like I've been like in the spring particularly, I've been covering the football team a lot, and that's been stressful. And then also I'm about to get married, and my fiance has a kid who looks at me like his father and everything. So once they go to bed is usually when I get on, because that's like the exact time where I can just like, I don't know, be an individual or just like, I don't know, I guess escape real life.
I think as far as dealing with stress goes, I tend to turn more towards like I said, there's kind of like puzzle or racing games where it's kind of a mechanical skill or a muscle memory thing that I've kind of gotten down, which kind of helps me kind of put those things a little bit more towards the back of my mind for a little bit as a distraction, but also as a way of just kind of like, focusing on something else for a little bit. That helps with solving problems or dealing with stress a lot is just kind of having a way to cool down.
I think a lot of it had to do with escapism, like escaping reality. I think it was easy. It's kind of the habit to go there, like kind of how people have a habit of going on Netflix once or like for 1 or 2 hours every single night. Like it's easy. It's easy to do, and it becomes routine. You just don't think about it, and it just becomes like like I need to do this if you haven't done it. And yeah, I think it was an escape.
I don't know. It's hard to put yourself in the shoes of who you are, because we haven't gotten a chance to be that. Like if you're a warrior trying to find out who your parents are and having to kill a bunch of mechanical dinosaurs, or being a power forward on the Warriors, you know, it's not something that we'd ever have experience with. So you get a chance to put it through your mind maybe what it's like. I mean, you don't get the full experience, but it brings you to a new world. It lets you be something new.
I think like it's cool to have like an alternate reality, I guess, almost. I mean, I'm not really a violent person, so when I can go into the video games and kind of be like this crazy dude that's like, you know, I don't know, blowing stuff up and everything, it's like, I don't know, it's cool. It's like an escape, I guess.
Especially helping people with like PTSD go through kind of that traumatic experience in a way that is safe, to kind of help them do that. So I can see that maybe like, especially if somebody sat down and actually made a game with the express intent of doing that, that could definitely be helpful.
I saw research on Call of Duty at one point for some soldier who had PTSD, and it actually like helped them, you know, get back into the real world. And I feel like that'll help a lot of people, especially GTA. You know, just running around, being able to do all these things, buying clothes in GTA. It's basically like your real life, but it's not your real life. It's like a virtual reality world. So I think that can help people a lot.